Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to my new video where we are going to be going over 5 uncommon tips for Ornn. Now, I think Ornn is in an extremely good spot. That's why I wanted to put a video out on him. Also, I just really love his playstyle and how he can be a little bit more aggressive compared to some of the other tanks in laning phase. And there are a bunch of different ways to play him out. And I'm actually really well versed on a lot of the micro stuff. So hopefully I'm going to be able to make you a better Ornn player after this game is done. If you're new to the channel, my name is LowFit. I do educational content. I do tip videos, do guide videos, and I also stream over on Twitch. And if you have any questions for me, you can hit me up over there. I'll put a link in the comments down below. And without further ado, let's jump right into the video. Alright, and jumping into tip number 1. Give Ornn a new skin, for the love of God. We've had the same one alternate skin since its goddamn release. But with that out of the way, I just had to voice my opinion on that shit. It was so annoying. Okay, so tip number 1, with your Q, it is extremely important to use your Q to set things up. It gives you a very nice slow and will enable you to get more ticks on your W, and it will allow you to set up your E if you land your Q. So your go button when you are playing Ornn and you are looking to trade aggressively is if you see that your Q hit a target. Here, let's put up a target dummy, and if the Q hit the target and it slowed them, which is going to just be so great to set up your full combo. It is a relatively short cooldown, and it does actually have an insane scaling at 100% AD scaling on your Q, but the most important part of it is that slow. So the number 1 tip is really look to set up all of your combos off your Q. This should always be the beginning of your combo, unless you're doing some long range engage with Ornn, maybe with your ult. So just really focus on getting extremely good with the timing, because there is a bit of delay and missile speed with your Q. It is not instant, and just having a good understanding of when the Q pillar is proccing up is going to really separate some of the very poor Ornn players from the very good Ornn players. You need to know exactly when it pop up, and you can do your E if you want to do that. It is so how you want to look at it is, you don't want to E right after you Q. You just want to wait maybe a half second to a second, and then your Q will be up and you will be able to E. As the quicker you can get that E off after your Q slow, the better, because they will have less chance to get away from their pillar, because everyone knows what's coming after you throw out your Q, at least in higher elos. So that will wrap up tip number 1 with Ornn. Alright, and jumping into tip number 2. Now, this is going to be rather odd, but it is a huge growing trend whenever you see an Ornn in pro play right now. When they are able to get their lane pushed all the way to the tower, Ornn has amazing roams that he can provide with his ultimate. So always look for these roams where you come into the mid lane and stay away from the vision of this bush, and make sure you're proccing your slow on the enemy from there, and then getting the knock up, and you can loop around, and hopefully your ally has gone and helped, and you will be able to really help your mid laner out a bit. Mages are in an extremely strong spot right now, and mid lane in general is at a very high power level. So what you want to do, being a top laner and being one of the lower impact roles around the map, is to help out the higher impact roles around the map and try and get them ahead. So make sure, if you are not getting engaged, say you're playing against a very passive laner, maybe another tank that doesn't want to trade with your percentage HP, always look to roam with this ultimate. It is such an insanely strong tool, and just getting extremely used to it. And in lower elos, they very rarely are warding, so there should be no excuse for you to not be roaming mid with your ultimate. And that will wrap up tip number 2 with Ornn. Alright, and jumping into tip number 3, I want to talk about Ornn and some of his strengths. Recently, he got a huge buff to the amount of damage you do based off your resistances on your E, so do not underestimate that. Do not go all in without using your E, even if they are playing it extremely well, staying in the middle of the lane, and they're just really not getting near any wall and say your Q missed and you're unable to connect your E on your Q, your E can sometimes be that little bit of damage you need to just chase someone down and do a bit of damage. So you see that was 240 damage just off of just base damages from the searing charge. So never ever underestimate how much damage you can do with this. And then obviously it's going to be more important. It's going to be a lot stronger when you are able to get the E knockup. But having a E knockup that scales with terrain really provides you a unique situation in which you really want to focus on forcing team fights around terrain. Now this is going to be really important because most likely you're going to be the main engage on your team, being the top laner and having a high impact ult. There won't be too much engage around you, just because in solo queue you're going to see a lot of Master Yis out of the jungle, a lot of mages out of support, so there's not going to be too much engage out of there. So when you are looking to engage a fight, there are two really effective ways. Always, if you want to look for a front-to-back team fight, look in places where there are very condensed areas with just very limited paths that can be covered really heavily with your E, just covering huge parts of the map with that. So outside of that, and the terrain scaling with your ultimate and how you want to look to engage, you want to look for flanks. Flanks can be so insanely strong. I covered this a little bit on the previous tip, but you can look to engage from flanks with your ultimate, and the TP flanks with your ultimate can be so effective in the late game. So just get used to that kind of play style and it will really pay dividends in your game. So again, look to either fight around terrain or get very large flanks with your ultimate. And that will wrap up this tip. Alright, and jumping into tip number 4, this is going to be a little bit of a twofer. I'm going to go over 2 small tips that I really wanted to talk about. So in League of Legends, there is no internal cooldown between abilities. You can do them all at the same time. As for an example, a Rengar could just jump on you and press all of his abilities, and you can use this type of playstyle when you are going on Ornn with your Q and your W. Your W is going to be extremely effective on champions that are slowed down by quite a bit. So your Q is really going to be able to set up your W, as I mentioned in tip number 1. So how you want to play it out when someone like a Darius that is very loves taking trades on Ornns, you would press your Q and your W at the same time, and you will guarantee as much of your W damage going down on that person, and you will not be as easily kited out there. So always remember, you can just do your Q and W at the same time. This is not World of Warcraft. This is not one of those other RPG games where you have to wait a little bit in between doing spells. You can press them at the exact same time and they will come out. Next one, this is just the absolute worst feeling on Ornn. This is when you see all these freaking pings with the missing pings, with the question marks, and you have to just be insanely good at knowing when you are pressing, when you need to redo your R. There's nothing worse than being like, oh, whoops, the ult didn't go off. And it can put your team in bad situations because they might think that you're engaged looking for the fight and you're going to be back up, but if you miss your ultimate and you don't hit that second part of the R, it can be rather bad. Now, sometimes what is going to happen is people are going to look to stun you and prevent you from doing your R dash, which will be pretty rough. So you do want to look for a little bit of space in between the enemies and yourself when you are looking to cast your ultimate, and you do have time to look to dodge before your ultimate. Just really get a good understanding of when you need to be pressing your ult again, and I would say 5 or 10 minutes of just being in the practice tool is going to do wonders, and you're not going to miss any of your ultimates. Another small thing with this tip, it is pretty important to understand what happens when you do an ultimate into the wall. See how it shorted my dash and I wasn't able to do it even though my internal timing would have been correct in an open space. When you are near a wall and looking to ultimate, you really have to hit it right on the nose, exactly right when it's in front of you, because the dash will not be expended. You see the dash range right there is pretty long, and it will hit the hammer back in any part of that dash, but walls will stop that. Sometimes I've even played a guy in Diamond who was an Anivia player, and he was able to wall off my ultimates right when he saw me looking to engage with the second part of my ultimate. He would put a wall right in front of me, and it would limit my ability to R. So what I had to do is just wait for the absolute perfect time, right when it was on top of me, because I know that guy was just such an insane player with his walls that he could prevent some of my ultimates. So just have those kind of things practice and down in the practice tool before you go into any games. And I think they will pay off pretty big dividends in your overall win rate. And that will wrap up tip number 4. Alright guys, let's get into the final tip, and I want to talk about itemization. When you are playing Ornn, it is very unique because of your passive and how it upgrades items for your allies and for yourself. So you can do a max 1 per ally, and you do a max of 2 for yourself. Now the upgraded items you can check out anytime in the shop, or if you want to go to the collection and items tab in the launcher, you will be able to see what they did. They added a couple new ones when they did this rework. Now, what you want to keep in mind when you're playing Ornn is that it will upgrade on your level up, and it will be the first 2, as Ornn can theoretically build more than 2 of these items. He can build Sunfire, he can build Abyssal, and he can build Iceborne as 3 items that he does. So you want to build the 2 that are being upgraded at the level 11 and 12 and 13, or at the level 13 mark, right? Yeah, at the level 13 mark. You want to make sure those are the ones in your inventory. Do not save the ones you want upgraded for one of your last items in your inventory, because it will not get upgraded. Second, with your allies, all the research I've done and that I've seen, it generally is going to upgrade the item that is first in the inventory slot. There's also some sort of priority system that Riot has stated, but it was kind of vague on what it's going to upgrade for your allies. But I'm pretty sure it will just be the first item that they built in their, and they have in their number 1 slot. So make sure your team is aware of that. If you guys know 100% for sure what it is, please let me know in the comments down below, because it's been a little bit confusing for me. And make sure your allies know. You can even ping out the items at the start, what you can upgrade, because the last thing you want is an ally that does not even take advantage of your passive and doesn't even buy one of the upgradable items. They have done a rather good job though of at least grabbing 1 item for most players and most play styles. The only time that I've seen kind of a non-upgradable person is when the game ran rather short, and I think it was a Malzahar that just rushed like Rylai's and Leandri's, and you can't really upgrade either of those with Ornn, so it was rather strange. But yeah, that's going to wrap up kind of my spiel with the upgrade system that Ornn has. It is extremely strong. Now, one thing I want to talk about with Ornn is that he gains an additional 10% bonus armor and magic resistance from all sources, which is really, really important when you look into itemizing Ornn, because he has an amplification effect similar to Poppy with resistances. You want to build resistance heavy items. Warmogs can be an okay item, but I'd much rather people focus on resistances, because you get extra damage on your E, and you get the extra 10% from your passive that can really pay off in the late game. So just make sure that you're building very resistance heavy builds. Maybe if you want to get a Warmogs because they are a really poke heavy team and you're doing a lot of Baron dancing, that can be okay, but please focus on resistance heavy items. If you have any questions about builds, the general tab is pretty, it's okay. I mean, if you want to do this as an essential 3 item build, that is completely fine. But if you have any questions about itemizations with Ornn, I would love to help anyone out, because Ornn is actually the 2nd champion that I got diamond on. After his release, when he was kind of weak but still really fun. I enjoyed it a lot when he used to have the W shield on him, but his new kit can be rather fun as well. That's going to wrap up my video, guys. If you have any questions, please remember to hit me up in the comments down below, or if you enjoyed the content, please remember to like and subscribe. That will help me grow my channel and kind of just hopefully build the community around more people that are looking to get better at League, and hopefully help some people find duos. Also going to put a link to my Discord if you want to kind of join that group of really good people. That's really funny stuff in there, and I make sure to ping out whenever I do my videos and streams there if you want to keep updated. All right, guys, take it easy.